So yes, we are now live on YouTube as well. A very warm welcome to all our participants today. I, CA Neha Agarwal, on behalf of Voice of CA, welcome you all to our today's webinar. Thank you all for taking out the time to join us today at the end of the year, where everyone is so occupied with GST returns and other due dates. I would like to welcome our speakers for today, CA Sachin Sinha and CA Rishabh Agarwal. And if we have any other panelists, them also. Very warm welcome to all of you. Today we are covering expatriate taxation, covering one of the most noise-making sections, 89A, that is introduced in Finance Act 2022 only, which talks about the relief from taxation and income from retirement benefit accounts maintained in notified countries. I would simply like to introduce our learned speaker for today, CA Sachin Sinha, who has been one of the most loved speakers on international taxation. He's a fellow member of ICAI, having 20 years of experience. He's founder partner of Prakash Sinha and Company Chartered Accountants. He has extensive experience in taxation, domestic and international, and management consultancy with focus on advisory litigation and handling other commercial issues. He has completed various certifications, including ICAI's International Taxation and Transfer Pricing Certificate course, and various other courses on auditing, taxation of non-profit organizations, concurrent audit of banks, forensic audit, fraud detection, and many more. He is associated with Chamber of Tax Consultants. He has deliberated around 350 seminars, webinars so far on domestic and international taxation topics, and has written many articles on the same. He was a member of study group of DT committee in year 2021, member of group formed by ICF for writing revised tax audit guidance note. He's also a member of International Tax Committee of ICAI and special invitee in the study group of International Tax Committee of NIRC for 21-22 and this year as well. And he holds many more such positions. He has authored various books and is a visiting faculty at ICAI. I can keep telling you about his achievements for another 10 minutes. They're extensive. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Today, he would be explaining the specifics of Section 89A and relevant rules for them. I would also like to introduce our second speaker for today, CA Rishabh Agarwal. I'm very proud to introduce him. He's my brother for the first time on our Voice of CA platform as a speaker. He has been hosting seminars and webinars before, but never as a speaker on our platform. Rishabh qualified CA in 2019 with All India rank 50. He has completed his BCom from Delhi University, followed by MCom. Further, he has completed his LLM in international taxation from Vienna University, Austria last year. He has been working in international taxation field since he qualified and has specialty in transfer pricing, which he has been building up since he qualified. He was a co-opted member of International Taxation Committee of NIRC in 21-22 and is currently involved with Committee of International Taxation of ICAI in this year. He is also a stock market enthusiast. So in case you're also a stock market enthusiast, you can definitely get in touch with him. He would be giving an overview of expatriate taxation today along with Sachin sir. Over to you, sir and Rishabh.
Thank you very much. And I think Sachin sir, I should share the screen.
Yes, please.
Start with the technical part. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So thank you for the introductions, and without any delay, I'll be discussing, so Sachin sir and I both will be discussing some basics about expatriate taxation over here. Few things about outbound expatriates like during this session, and obviously that my sister has clearly hyped up Section 89A, so that will be taken care of. And I mean, it was required and it has been introduced this year. Probably not so talked of, but let's see how it progresses. So Before going into taxation, I mean, who is an expatriate? What is like the dictionary meaning of an expatriate is very important over here. So expatriate could be anyone working outside his nation or going out, could be like an Indian national working abroad, or could be foreign national working in India. So it's very clear over here in India that taxation or incidence of tax is based on the residential status and the accrual and arisal of the income in India. So there are three main residential statuses that we know, or the category of residential statuses that we know is resident and ordinary resident, resident and non-ordinary resident, and a non-resident. So in order to be taxed, we know we follow a residence rule and we follow worldwide taxation for a resident individual in India, and the incidence for tax is also based on it. So we'll quickly discuss the basic conditions which are specified in Section 6 of the Income Tax Act, which talks about when a person or when an individual will be a resident in India, because it's of, I would say, the utmost importance for employees to determine their residential status because of the movement abroad or maybe people coming in to work in India. So any individual, so there are two basic conditions for residence. Like, I mean, it's pretty clear from the slide that if a person spends an aggregate period of 182 days or more, so that's why it's at least 182 days in India. There is a second or an alternate condition that talks about if a person spends 60 days in India during this year or during the previous year we are talking about, and 365 days in aggregate during the 4 consecutive previous years before the previous year, which is under the question. So these are the two basic conditions that help us determine the residence of an individual. Though we have to see, because there are two limbs, as we have discussed, of residence. That's a resident and ordinary resident, and a residence and non-ordinary resident. So we have to further classify whether the person is a ordinary resident or a non-ordinary resident, for which the conditions are mentioned in subsection 6 of Section 6. Then there's a small exception which has been put in the explanation. We read it as explanation 1A, or the first clause of the first explanation to section 6.1. It talks about people who are member of cruise ships or individuals who go out for the purpose of employment outside India, and it is applicable only to citizens of India. It's very clear that we are talking about citizens of India. That's where the explanation begins with. So it says that the previous condition, which mentions 60 days, shall be replaced with 182 days over here. Yeah. So the second basic condition becomes redundant over here, because again it will be read as individual is in India for an aggregate period of 182 days during the previous year, which again coincides with the first condition. So the second condition becomes a little redundant in this case, because then only the first condition is applicable if a citizen of India goes out as a member of a cruise ship or for the purpose of employment outside India. So so this explanation is relevant and is important in the year the employee is moving out or the person is moving out, and not for the consequent years. It is only to be seen, and the benefit is only to be given in the year of departure of the employee. And hence, this was also written in the memorandum when this explanation was introduced in order to give relief to people moving outside India. And we talk about here, we focus more on the purpose of employment outside India over here rather than the member of cruise ship, because we are trying to focus on the expatriates or the movement of employees outside India during the year of departure. So here, I mean, there's a lot of jurisprudence and a lot of discussion and debate about what includes in the term for the purpose of employment outside India. Is it that a person is, employed with company A in India and is being deputed or is being seconded to the foreign company of the same group, or maybe is taking up a different employment, or maybe the person in India was unemployed but has got an employment directly outside India. So there's a lot of jurisprudence from different high courts and also from ITATs of different states on this regard. So a lot of things have already been covered and decided and settled. So it also covers where I must say that the employer is same or the employer is different. And one of the jurisprudence, if I correctly remember, also talks about a profession, which is also employment, profession or business. Sachin sir, please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't exactly remember the case over here. But I think there is one judgment which clearly covers this scenario.
Absolutely correct, sir. So even self-employment also covers for the purpose of employment.
Great. I mean, yeah. So I mean, if you read it simply with the simple interpretation, it seems very easy. But then there are a lot of intricacies just with this one term, and a lot of litigation has already happened, and it continuously goes on this. So moving ahead, we have another clause to explanation 1B, which to explanation 1, subclause B, which talks about or which gives relief to citizen of India and person of Indian origin. So here two categories of people are covered. One is a citizen of India, another is a person of Indian origin. We'll discuss what is a person of Indian origin. It's clearly defined. And so it here again gives relief for the second condition that we've seen, that the word 60 days will be replaced with 182 days in the first limb of this explanation of this clause. So it clearly says that a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin, if is visiting to India, so it does not specify any purpose for the visit, could be anything, but just visits to India. And one of the more important things here is visit to India should be from outside India. So a person shall be outside India before he visits India. So it says that he has to stay in India for a period of 182 days. Again, so the second condition becomes redundant over here, and the person will fall again in the first condition for the residential status. However, there was another limb which was added to this explanation, which says that if a person of Indian origin or citizen of India has Indian sourced income exceeding 15 lakh rupees, so the exemption that was given from 60 days to 182 days, that stands reduced to 120 days. So in a case where there's a person who visits India, who is an Indian citizen, maybe could be a resident anywhere in the world, but visits India for a period of 120 days or more and has Indian sourced income exceeding 15 lakh rupees, right? So he'll become resident in India because of this explanation, because he falls under the second clause of section 6.1. However, if we dig deeper, he'll qualify as a resident and non-ordinary resident as per subsection 6. So if we see this, so it's an exemption, but it's connecting or the nexus is with the citizenship and not with the residence. And then again, we have to see the person's Indian source income in order to see whether we have to apply the criteria of 120 days or 182 days over here. And as we have seen, sorry.
Can I add something here?
Yes, sir, please.
So if you see, the wording of this section is very important. So visits to India. So what is the meaning of the term visits to India? It means whether the person came to India for the purpose of going back. So assuming a person who came to India and because his job is no more, or came back to India because of the COVID. So whether it will fall under this category of visit to India or not. So two situations. One, he is still in employment, but now he is working from India and saying that because of the COVID. So let's say he came to India in the month of October. So whether 182 days criteria will apply or 60 days criteria will apply, because or in that situation also we need to test whether the 15 lakh criteria will satisfy or not. So whether in that situation he will consider as a resident, or the second situation is he came back to India because now his job is no more in outside India, and he came back, okay, will stay in my country and we'll see when the job will be come, when job will get new job, then I'll go back. So which situation will cover? Or the person is still in job, came to India for the purpose of attending the family function or spending summer vacation or winter vacation, and then he will go back. So which situation will fall under this? There are so many situations, and we can dissect if all the situation. If you every time you will see a new kind of tax situation every time. Further, the term the income from foreign source. So whether section 9, if any person whose income arisen outside India, but by virtue of section 9 it become deemed to accrue rise in India, whether that will also fall under this income from other than income from foreign source, because income is from foreign source, but due by virtue of section 9 it becomes deemed to accrue rise in India. So whether it will fall under this or not. So there's so many permutation and combination, and that should be tested while determining the tax, the residential status under this category. Thank you, sir.
Right, sir. Like perfectly added over here. That's why I earlier mentioned that residential status is one area where litigation is still going on, and every time you see there is a new situation. And I mean, as you rightly pointed out, income from other than foreign sources. So here it says that the income has to be calculated if you see the interplay with section 5. So first we need to determine the residential status in order to determine the scope of income. But again, it says income from other than foreign sources. So Indian sourced income, to determine that, you need to first have the residential status. So it's like a loop that has been stuck with this clause over here. I'll just move ahead when we've been talking about like a few. So this explanation has like 3 basic conditions that it is applicable to a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin. To summarize, it applies only when the person, when the Indian citizen or person of Indian origin comes visit to India, and then we have to see the income condition in order to determine which criteria to apply of 182 days or 120 days. So visit to India, as sir rightly mentioned, that there is no purpose which has been specified here, like in clause A of explanation 1, which says for the purpose of employment, if you read it correctly. So it specifies the movement of a citizen outside India for the purpose of employment outside India. But the clause B of explanation doesn't talk about any of this. It just says visit to India. It can be for medical purposes, it could be for leisure, it could be for tourism, could be to meet family. So I think the Income Tax Act here tries to expand their tax net by involving or by making more people liable as residents in India. So similarly, we have seen that there's another subsection 1A to section 6 that was added from the Finance Act 2020, which brings a new concept, which is adopted by a few countries like US, Hungary, but it was new for India to tax a person on the basis of citizenship, because we always determined tax incidence on the basis of a resident, on the basis of residential status. So this was brought in I would say, to remove the flexibility where there were stateless people who, for example, stayed in India maybe for 180 days, stayed in Thailand for 180 days, and remaining days they were in Singapore or maybe some other country. So this escaped the residential rules, because usually the residential rules talks about 180 stay of 182 days in a year, if you see on a general basis, similarly like in India. So this citizenship was introduced, this criteria of citizen of India was introduced for people having, for citizens having Indian sourced income, or again, as we've seen, the term is other than income from foreign sources exceeding 15 lakh rupees. And there is no condition to visit India over here. So it is very simple. Citizen of India, having other than foreign source income exceeding 15 lakh rupees, but the citizen is not liable to tax in any other country. So here, the third condition, when it talks about not liable to tax, it's again a very litigative term. So what do you mean by not liable to tax? Whether there is no income tax in the country where the person is resident, is I would say there is income tax, but the person is below the threshold, or where there is income tax, person does cross the minimum threshold of income, but he is getting some special exemption, maybe to promote business or something. So what does the term liable to tax here clearly means? So, I mean, if we look into the Income Tax Act, there is a definition of this term liable to tax. It says that it falls under the tax incidence, and it's different from subject to tax, because when it's subject to tax, it talks about that it is being taxed or the tax is being paid on such income. But liable to tax just says that it is under the tax net, irrespective an exemption is given or irrespective is below the threshold. So if we take an example of an Indian citizen, I would say, who is a resident in Singapore but has interest income in India for say 20 lakh rupees, but as we all know, like he'll be there is income tax in Singapore, so he'll be getting taxed. So the third condition, which says not liable to tax, doesn't get satisfied over here and is failed. So the person will not be liable to tax in India if he doesn't come to India and does not fall under subsection 1 of section 6. And if we take a situation like, we can ignore that corporate tax has been introduced in UAE. So if we go to the previous situation when there was no tax in UAE, or personal tax is still not there. But if there is a citizen of India living in UAE, having other sourced income in India of 20 lakh rupees, doesn't visit India in the previous year for like he doesn't come in India at all. So still, will he become a resident in India or not? I think he becomes a resident considering all the three conditions are satisfied over here: being a citizen of India, having Indian source income exceeding 15 lakh rupees, and he's not liable to tax in the country of his residence or any other country. So over here, but again, it specifies that under subsection 6, that any resident or any citizen who is becoming a resident because of clause 1A will be a non-ordinary resident. And so technically only the Indian sourced income, or I would say income from a business or profession controlled or managed from India does fall under the tax net over here. So here is a small summary of what we have discussed. I mean, it talks about all the three residential status categories and different types of income, or what is the scope of taxation over here. We have discussed if the income is received in India is taxable for all the three categories. If income is deemed to receive in India, again, it's taxable for all the three categories. So income accruing arising or deemed to accrue arise in India is also taxable for all the three categories, because the nexus is in India, is with India. But if it's an income is accruing or arising outside India, then only the resident and ordinary resident will pay tax in India. The non-ordinary resident and a non-resident is not liable to tax, unless for non-ordinary resident, we can see if it's a business profession controlled or managed from India. This was a small summary of what we have discussed so far.
In the previous slide, I want to add something.
I'll just go back here.
Okay, so again, an interesting situation. Like again, the term you use that 15 lakh rupees other than the total income. So the term is total income other than income from foreign sources. So assuming a person who is having an NRE account here, and we know that the income in interest income under the NRE account is exempt under section 10(4) of the Income Tax Act. So whether that will also fall, if assuming the total interest amount is 15 lakh or more than 15 lakh rupees, whether in that situation it will cover or not. The term is total income. So if any income which is exempt from the threshold, so it will not fall under the total income, because chapter 3 says income which is not forming part of total income. So in interest, so if anything which is falling under the category of section 10, we can say that it is not forming part of total income. But anything, assuming the person is eligible for deduction under section, under chapter 6. So in that case, can we say that if the amount is more than 15 lakh, but subsequently he is eligible for deduction, let's say 2 lakh rupees, and now he reduced to 14 or 13 lakh rupees, then can it be also said that it is out of 15 or not, within 15 or out of 15? So that test is very important, because term is total income. So whether total gross total income or net total income, that is not mentioned. Total income means what? So that is again a debatable issue. And the second part is, as you taken the example of UAE. So there are two school of thought. One is, you correctly mentioned that he may not be, he may fall under this category. And the second thought, which is still under the discussion, that he is not taxable because of, he is not liable to tax because of his residency. So if he is resident of one country and he is not liable to tax in that country because of the taxation rule, then one can say that okay, he will not fall under this category. But he is not liable to tax because he is not a resident of that country. Then one can say that okay, 6(1)(a) will apply. So still two school of thoughts are there. One you have correctly explained. I just added my views. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Definitely. So when we were discussing about residence, so we'll take a quick look on the Article 4 of the OECD model, which also talks about the residential status. And, it defines who is a resident for treaty purposes and what if there is a case of dual residence, what to do and what are the tiebreaker tests and how are they to be applied. So for the purpose of treaty, a resident, they meant the OECD Model Tax Convention mentions that it's as per the domestic law, where the person is a resident on the basis of domicile, residence, or a place of effective management, or any other criteria of similar nature. However, it doesn't apply if the person is liable to tax only for the state-sourced income or the income that is sourced from that state. So in the Indian context, such person will be a resident but non-ordinary resident, as we have seen in the previous slide, that a resident and non-ordinary resident is only liable to tax for the income sourced or accrued or arise in India or received in India, or deemed to accrue, arise, and deemed to be received in India. So in such a situation, a resident and non-ordinary resident in India will not be a resident for the treaty purpose. Then the Article 2 contains, the clause 2 of Article 4 contains a tiebreaker test in a situation where a person is resident in both the countries which are applying the treaty. So if, for example, if I would say that an employee leaves India on 1st of November, so he satisfies the condition of 182 days in India, but then he leaves for US and has a green card over there. So US, I mean, they tax the person on the basis of citizenship, or they call it as residence. So on the basis of citizenship, that person is also liable to be taxed in US on his worldwide income. So this is a clear case of dual residence. So clause 2 specifies the tiebreaker test, which have to be applied in a particular sequence. So if for the first thing that has to be seen is a permanent home of the person. So for example, if the person has a permanent home in both the countries or doesn't have a permanent home in both the countries, then we go on to the next test that talks about center of vital interest. This includes both the personal interest and the commercial interest, or the commercial connection as well. There's still debate which is more important, and whether we have to see where the person works or where the person's family is staying. So both the personal and economic interest are important over here to see, but it's not clear which has more weightage. And again, we have seen a lot of litigation happening around it, just not in India, but across the globe. The next test, if the above two are failed, talks about habitual abode, which again, there are nuances of permanency over here, or maybe an owned house or a rental house, or could be a hotel room. So there's again a host of litigation that's going on across the globe to determine what exactly is a virtual abode, because these terms are not being defined. So if all of it fails, then comes to nationality. So as we know, in India, I think we cannot have two nationalities if we hold an Indian national, if you are an Indian national. But there are still countries which allow to have dual nationality as well, like Brazil and Portugal. You can have both nationalities at the same time. So then it all falls out to the competent authorities to decide on mutual basis the residential status of the individual in question. Sanjay sir, do you want to add something over here?
No, sir. Perfectly. All right, sir.
Right. So when we talk about employees, so we know wherever there is an employer-employee relationship, so the income is taxable or chargeable under the head salary over here. So section 15 to 17 governs the taxation of salary in the Indian Income Tax Act. Section 15 is a charging section. It has three clauses. One talks about the salary due. Clause B talks about the salary received in advance. And clause C talks about the areas of salary over here. So I think it tries to cover all the areas if there is an employer-employee relationship. Further, the term salary has been defined under section 17, which for our discussion also includes pension and perquisites. And again, section 17.2 defined perquisites, which again includes a provident fund, or if we talk in a global term, social security scheme. Sir, can you elaborate or expand a little on the interplay between section 15 and section 5 in the case over here?
Yes. So thank you so much. As you see, as far as concerned to section 15, we are reading this section since beginning, because the salary taxation of salary is in our syllabus since I think when you started reading taxation. And very interestingly, the three limb of this salary is salary due from an employer, salary paid or allowed to him, and arrear salary. So we are not discussing now arrear salary and salary paid, because this is very simple. Now we'll discuss salary due. What is the meaning of salary due from an employer? So if you see, this term seems very simple, that when it becomes due. So अगर 30th March की salary है, तो वो due हो गई 30th March को. Now you'll get the salary in the next month. Now what is the situation, and where, because we all know that for the purpose of taxation, the income will be taxed only if it is falling under the total income, except subject to certain exceptions. So for this purpose, we need to read section 5. And section 5 says, in case of assuming we are reading for the purpose of resident and then non-resident, in both the cases is similar. Income accrue or arise, income received or deemed to be received in India, so that is falling under the salary paid and allowed to him. Income accrue or arise or deemed to accrue to him. So whether income accrue or arise and salary due is one and same thing, because here the term is salary due and section 5 says income accrue or arise. So generally speaking, yes, we understand that salary due means salary accrue. But while reading the balance sheet or the accounting part, we generally use the term income interest accrue but not due. It means these two, as per my understanding, these two are two different terms. Salary income accrued but not due. Here we are reading salary due, and there this term is income accrued. We are reading it as the same thing. So whether it is same thing or not, because so far it is not litigated in this way, but I don't know, can we litigate in this manner also? Secondly, if you read section 9 under bracket 912, it says income will be taxable where the service is rendered. So employment exercised. So that is taxable only when the employment is exercised, and that too income deemed to accrue in India. It means income already accrue arisen somewhere. Now we are for the by deeming fiction, we are changing the situs from outside India to India. But it is very interesting to understand the interplay of section 5.1a or B and read with section 15A, because this is very important term, and when we will discuss in 89 and rule 21 AAA, we will understand it in more detailed manner. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I mean, you always stir the mind of audience by raising questions and creating situations which no one thinks about generally. So I'll just move ahead because our main focus is not the taxation of salary over here. So it was just to open the doors for the discussion and, to give you a basic idea of how the salary is taxed. So in our case, we are trying to cover outbound expatriates. So outbound expatriates are Indian nationals who are working abroad. So because the issue arises in the year of departure majorly, and then when the employee is retired and comes back to India in a case, and then some benefits are retirement benefits are accrued or being received by him. So these are the two major situations where the issue arises because sometimes there might be a case of dual residence as we discussed earlier, or there might be some other intricacies that have to be seen because of an open language in the Income Tax Act. So we can see that there are majorly two models of movement of employees. One is a secondment model, another is a deputation. So secondment model is also called an economic employer model because in that case, the employer of the employee actually changes. So the control over the employee actually changes. Also the payroll changes. So there may be, very intricate agreements or intercompany agreements while the movement of employees, but we'll try to keep it simple for the discussion. Otherwise, like there can be n number of permutations and combinations because everyone has different idea of making an employment agreement or a secondment or a deputation agreement. So these terms are separate; they have separate meaning. As we can see that under secondment, as I mentioned earlier, the employer of the employee changes, but under the deputation model, the employer remains the same, but instead it's providing services to the foreign company if it's in an outbound case, and a service fee is being received. So we'll see the modus operandi and the mechanics of both the models with an example. But these terms both have been interchangeably used in various jurisprudence in India. One of it is mentioned below, the Cholamandalam MS General Insurance Company. It was a decision by AAR, or the Authority of Advanced Ruling, where they have used these terms, secondment and deputation, synonymously. So if we see here, this is like a typical secondment structure for an outbound employee, where an Indian company is sending an employee to its foreign counterpart. So there, over here, two agreements are entered. One is a new employment agreement that's between the foreign company and the employee. And then there is a secondment agreement between the Indian company and employee, which is seconding its employee to the foreign company. So over here, the foreign company becomes the economic employer. As we discussed, it's an economic employer model. So the employer changes hands over here, and the final salary or the cost of the employee is borne by the foreign company, and mostly is being paid by the foreign company directly in the host country. However, there could be situations where the Indian company is paying some part of the salary of the employee in India or in the home country. So that part is being reimbursed by the foreign company to the Indian company. The foreign company has complete control over the acts of the employee, and probably the Indian company loses all its control or any lien to call back the employee because a new employment agreement has been entered between the employee and the foreign company. If we, on the other hand, if you look at the deputation model, it looks similar, but the mechanics are different over here. The Indian company still remains the economic employer or employer in the real sense, and it has only sent its employees to the foreign company in order to provide services to the foreign company on behalf of the Indian company over here. the salary is still being won or being paid by the Indian company. Maybe there could be that some, like, living expenses or traveling expenses are paid in the host country. But however, all the cost is being booked in the Indian company. But the foreign company over here pays the Indian company a technical service fee and has an arrangement or a service arrangement among the both the Indian and the foreign counterparts. So these are the two models which are widely used, and there can be different agreements, there can be different combinations, there can be different payment schemes that the companies follow, because every company has its own aim why they are doing that and why is it important for them to have such an agreement with the employee or among the companies itself. So, I mean, if in such a case, we see that only in case of a dual residence, we'll encounter an issue. Otherwise, if a person is a non-resident or a non-ordinary resident, the salary that is actually received in India or the salary which is for which the service is being rendered in India will be taxable in India. And we can see this with a small example that will follow. Before that, I mean, so the taxation part still remains the same because it is still governed by section 15 to 17. And as I mentioned earlier, the critical time is the year of departure and the year of return, or the post year of return, when the retirement benefits are being received by the employee. So if we take a quick look on this case study or an example, so here Mr. X is an Indian national working for an Indian company. He is being seconded to a foreign company for a period of probably 3 years, or maybe for certain years, and he receives his portion of his salary in the host country and also in India from ICO. So the salary which is being received in India will be reimbursed by the foreign company. Here we see that the foreign company has complete control in such a situation of Mr. X and is liable for all his acts and omissions. And if we see for Mr. X, what incomes will be taxable or will be liable to tax in India also depends again on his residential status. So if he is a resident in the year of departure, as we've seen in the case when the person goes to US, there can be a case of dual residence. And if after the tiebreaker he qualifies to be resident of India, so his worldwide income is taxable. In the other two cases, being a non-resident or a non-ordinary resident, only the income or the salary received for services rendered in India or any other or any salary received in India for services rendered either in India or abroad. So basically, income received in India or income received for services rendered in India will be taxable in such a case. I mean, so I would request Sachin sir to continue with the part of retirement benefit and introduce us to section 89A.
Thank you so much, Rishabh. Nicely explained section 5, section 9, and section 15, 16, 17. And as a student of income tax, I always feel that the whole gimmick of taxation is lying under section 5 and 9. If you understand section 5, 6, 9, the other part is majority is for computation of income. So while talking about total income, because I always start my deliberations from the total income, the concept of total income, because if there is no total income, then our whole building will collapse. So it starts from section 242 under bracket 45. It says, so total income is total income as per section 5, computed in the manner laid down in the act. It means there are two parts. One is section read with section 5, and the second part is computation. So from sections 10 onwards, we can say that the computation part is there, where which benefit you will get, how to compute, what is part of taxation, what is exempt, that is all there. But the main chargeability lies in section 4, 5, 6, 9. So because 6 is important to determine whether you're a resident or non-resident. If you're resident, then apply 5.1. If you're non-resident, apply 5.2, and accordingly check with section 9. So today my part is, although Rishabh has made my job very easy because he has already deliberated the first part. So as in his slide, he also said that the most critical part of an expat's taxation is the year in which he goes for the purpose of employment, and the secondly, when he comes back. So in the year of visit, that is for the purpose of determining the residential status, but the year when he goes and the year when he comes back, and after completion of his job period, and in that period, of course, he gets some pension or the social security in that company where he was employed in out of India. Subsequently, after completion of his job, he came back to India. Now he become resident, and she get the pension amount. So whether that pension amount will be taxable in the year of receipt, or it will be taxed as on accrual basis. So what section says basically, and why this we are discussing this retirement benefit. So if you read section 5, it says due, salary due to the employee. So whether this pension is also due to the employee. So while reading section 17, because salary includes perquisite and perquisite includes pension. So if the pension is being accrued evenly over the period, then can we say that it is accrued over the period, so it should be taxed as and when it accrued? So in the year, if the person become resident, can we say that it will be accrued in that period? Or taking another example, so at the age of 50, the person came back after the retirement, and as per the social security arrangement, he has to keep his, he cannot withdraw from the pension account up to 60 years or 65 years, as the case may be. So till then, the income accrues over there, because of course, the amount is laying in that account and it is increasing by virtue of interest or by any means. So it is increasing there. So whether this increment is also taxable in the year in which it increases, if yes, then under which head, whether it is other sources or salary, because we know that the pension is part of section 17. And if it is part of section 17, and why this pension he got? Because of his employment. So if anything which is arisen from or because of such employment, then will fall under the head salary. That we all know is a standard rule. If it is falling under the head salary, then the question arises, the person is a resident of India and is not outside India, then in that case, where it will be taxed? So section 9 says, where section 9(2) says, the salary will be taxable where the service is rendered, or we can say that where actually the employment is exercised. So where he has exercised his employment. So let's take a simple example of India, UK for the purpose of understanding, and keep in mind that one person who was earlier in UK, now he retired from his job, but he did not withdraw his money from the pension account. So this is a simple example. Now that money is accruing every year, and he is getting the benefit of that accrual. He is not withdrawing that money. So whether that accrual will be taxed in India or not, if yes, in which year? So if we read section 15, 17, so we know that this pension accrual in pension is also part of salary. If it is part of salary, then it will fall under section 17 because it's a perquisite. If it fall under section 17, it will fall under the head section 15 because it is under the head salary and due. Now we know that section 15 will apply only when we confirm the section 9 or section 5. For section 5, we know that yes, the person is a resident of India, so he become resident of India. As I given the example, he become resident of India. And secondly, it says any income which accrue arise or deemed to accrue arise. So income is accruing arising outside India. So whether that, in that case, whether it will, can we change the situs of that accrual to India? We can say yes, but under which head we need to tax this income? So of course the salary income, because it is arisen because earlier you was employed there, and that's why that income is arising. If this is the situation, then section 9 says it will be taxed only where the employment he exercises his employment. So where the employment is exercised, where he exercised employment, as per my example, it is in UK, then it should be taxed in UK. Now he become resident of India. So the two situations. So this is one situation what we discussed. Based on this background, now section 89 and to rule 2021 AAA, we will discuss, then we'll understand why section 89A comes into picture. So earlier what happened, income tax act says, see, it is will tax on accrual basis. So it will be taxed every year on the basis of the amount increases. So it was taxable earlier in India and still it is taxable in India every year. But that person will not get money in that year. He will get the money at a particular, in a particular year, as per the social security arrangement, let's say 60 or 65, what is the age given in that particular country? So in our example, let's consider it as 65. So he will get, his right to receive that money will arise only in the year when he attains the age of 65. Before that, he cannot receive that money. So can it be still taxable in India? But unless there is right to receive, any income is only taxable when you get the right to receive, even though in that year or subsequently. I got the right, but not this year, subsequently. In which year? 65, at the age of 65 years. So can I pay in tax on that income today? So this was the basically tug of war. In income tax act says, yes, it says to be taxed based on the accrual. So the person has to pay tax here. And since the income which was the pension income, which is accruing or which is arising there or accruing there, it will be taxed in the age of 65. So in that year, that government will deduct tax and say, okay, we have deducted the tax, get your money. Indian person, the person who is resident of India now, he is not eligible to take the foreign tax credit because this year, when he declaring the income, the foreign country has not deducted any tax. Subsequently, when the foreign country has deducted tax, the quantum was used, but you are declaring the nominal part of that. So the difference is there, so you're not eligible to get the foreign tax credit and you have to lose that. So this was the hue and cry, and before so many representations made by the non-resident or Indian diaspora before the honorable minister. Then this section has been conceived, and they come with a new scheme that okay, we'll give some relief. What kind of relief they are giving? Just to change the year of taxation, and that too only the notified country. So they'll notify the country, and to whom this benefit will be given? To the specified person. When this benefit will be given? When he has open a specified account. So what is the meaning of specified person? What is specified account? This is again a question of discussion. So if you read this section, this is very simple. Where a specified person has an income accrued in a specified account, such income shall be taxed in such manner in such year as may be prescribed. So here the purpose is to give relief. But if what relief you are getting, only this section says the year will be changed. So year X, now it will not taxed in year X, it will tax in year Y. Not the yes, Rishabh, you want to add something?
Yeah, just to put in different words, it's basically removing the mismatch or the timing mismatch of, because India is taxing the income on accrual basis, and the foreign company is taxing those retirement benefits on the basis of receipt. So it's just trying to remove the mismatch in such a situation. That's it, sir.
Yes. So you rightly said. So basically there is mismatch, and that India wants to remove, but only to if the transaction is between the notified countries, with the notified countries. And what are the notified countries? So UK, Ireland, Great Britain, UK, Canada, USA, and Ireland. So there are, I think, 4 or 5 countries notified, and that too in the April 2022 when the notification was came. Subsequently, no other country has been added in this notification. So this is can we go back, sir? So this is the notified country. Now we'll discuss who is the person who is the eligible person to get this benefit. So specified person, they use the term where a specified person has income accrued in a specified account. So this is very important to understand. That means there is some income which is accruing to that person and to that specified account. Specified person means a person resident in India who opened a specified account in a notified country. Here the complexities lies actually. Specified person means a person resident in India. It means the person should be resident in India. Now we are testing a person who is resident in India, who opened a specified account in a notified country. When he has opened the account while being a non-resident in India and resident in that country. So this "and" is very important. So take a situation. Can there be a situation where a person is resident of India and resident of other country also? Yes, already Rishabh has given so many examples. Can there be a situation where a person become non-resident of India and at the same time he is non-resident of the other country also? Yes.
Yes.
So assuming the person was in India for last 3 or 4 months, and assuming there's clause C is not required to be satisfied for time being, we're just testing section 1, the 182 days clause. So he was in India for 3 or 4 months. Subsequently, he went to Singapore. He stayed there for 3-4 months, and from there he got a job in UK and shifted to UK. And he stayed in UK for only 3-4 months. So can it be said that he is non-resident of India for that year and non-resident of UK for that year also? Yes, because if we consider the number of days of 182 days, he is nowhere he satisfies this 182 days condition. So he is non-resident in both the countries. Now test this again, non-resident in India and resident of that country. So in the year when he got the job in UK, of course, while opening a bank account, the company gives all the facilities for opening the account and opening the social security account as well. So in that very first year, his account is being opened, and in that year he was a resident of. He was a non-resident of that country also. But here the condition is he should be a non-resident of India and he should be resident of that country. He should be resident of that country. But what if he is not satisfying in the first year? So whether he is out of eligibility for a whole life, or whether this need to be tested every year. So this needs to be tested at the time of opening of bank account. So which bank, which specified account? So not specified account. So opening of a specified account, and that too in the very first year. If assuming he is not satisfies he failed to satisfy this condition in the first year, can it be tested in the second year and subsequent year also? To my mind, no, because it says specified account, opened a specified account. So at the time of opening of specified account is important. Now, here the term is opening a specified account. A specified account means, can we read this as a one specified account or more than one specified account? Is it possible to have more than one specified account? Or is it possible that for opening one account, I am not able to satisfy this condition, but my second account, when my second account opened, I satisfy this condition. So whether I will be eligible for section 89A relief for the second account and not for the first account, or for both the accounts. In so many situations which I am just giving before you, the law is silent. And here the litigation situation will arise and the confusion amongst the stakeholders will arise, because they should make the law in such a manner that can be easily executed, because here you want to give some relief to the stakeholders. But the complexity is, this is to be satisfied when who opened a specified account in a notified country while being a non-resident in India and resident of that country. It means first year, it may so happen that you are resident of both the country, or you are out, or it may so happen that you are non-resident of both the country, you are out. Subsequently, it may so happen that you satisfy this condition, then you will be eligible to get the benefit. But the question is still sustained, that what if the person opened his specified account in year one? Yes, Rishabh, you want to add something?
Yes, a similar question has also been received from our audience, that
Yes.
What if the person has opened the first account in the year when he departs from India, but subsequently he closes that account in order to get the benefit and opens another account when he becomes a resident in that country and probably a resident in, a non-resident in India. So in order to satisfy that condition, he opened a different account. So again, like whether he gets the benefit for that account or not, that like it was like this question was put in with this similar situation that you were trying to explain.
Correct. And now come to what is specified account. Means an account maintained in a notified country. So what is an account? Can we say that it denotes only for one, or it means no, plural number can also be there? So specified account or accounts maintained in a notified country by the specified person in respect of his retirement benefit. So this is basically linked with the retirement benefit. We generally use the term pension in India for this purpose because we understand that the person who is in employment gets some pension and the employer also contribute in that part and in that account, and the income increases in that account. And when the person retired or come out from the job, he is eligible to get that money, but there are certain conditions. So if we keep this background in our mind, we need to understand in case of international employment, of course, some similar type of benefits are there because they are also working somewhere and the social security benefits are available to them. Now the question arises the taxability. We are discussing about the taxability and the relief and the provisions relating to relief and the challenges to avail such benefit. So we discuss this part. Now come to, so can we go to the next slide, sir? Next. Okay. So this section, if you read, if you see, there only one part. This is regarding the specified person having a specified account in notified country. That's all, and it will be taxed in the as per the manner prescribed. So where they will prescribe. So they say, okay, I will introduce a rule through which you will prescribe how it will be. The relief will be given to you. So this is basically available for assessment at 20 to 23. So we already filed this return last year. So this is available to us while filing. Still, you can file the return up to 31st for the year 22 23. So you can still avail this. But then there are so many interesting facets in this. While calculating total income chargeable to tax for the purpose of this act, such accruing income might be included in the total income. So as I discussed earlier, that in India, till now what we were doing, we were taxing this on the accrual basis, and still we will do so if it is not falling under the notified country. So assuming you are from Singapore, Mauritius, Malaysia, you will not get the benefits of 89A because this is available to only to the notified countries. So still for that part, we will apply the accrual rule and we will not give this benefit to those employees who are working other than the notified countries. So income is taxed in notified nation, namely at the time of withdrawal. So how it is taxed in that country? It will be taxed in that country when it is withdrawn from that account or the employee redeem his employment and then he will get the money. So he is free to bring that money to India. Now Indian government cannot tax because on the accrual basis it is already taxed. But what is the loss to the employee? It is easier to pay the annual tax rather than tax in one go. So the loss to the employee is he is not eligible for the foreign tax credit because in the year in which he withdraw, the foreign country will tax the income on the accrual part and give the and deposit the tax accordingly. But in India, when he will come, he will not get the credit to that extent because the income is already taxed earlier in earlier years. And in this year, only the small part of that is he has to pay. So he will not able to, his loss is that foreign tax credit. So the SSE okay, next, sir. Next slide, sir.
Done, sir. Sub rule 2.
Okay.
You want me to? So
this is again very interesting. But before this, if you see, because we discussed rule 21 AAA, so sub rule 1, when we go back to sub rule 1, the language of the rule is very important. and we need to understand the intricacies of the term they've used. Where a specified person has income accrued in a specified account or accounts. So here they use the term specified account or accounts. What is the meaning of it? Means they itself says that there may be more than one account. So income accrued in a specified account or accounts during a previous year relevant to the assessment year, beginning on or after the first day of April 2020, because this section is available from the assessment year 1st April, starting from 1st April 2022. Such income shall, at the option of the specified person. It means whether this is optional. Yes, this is optional to the specified person, and this is not mandatory. If the employee wants, okay, no, I'll continue with the old provision, then he can continue. So to avail this option, of course, the additional thing required to be done, because in India, we know there are so many compliances needs to be done to get some benefit. So for this rule also, you need to do some compliances. So at the option of the specified person, be included in his total income, and that too, in which the income from the specified account or accounts is taxed at the time of withdrawal in the notified country. So this will applicable only when in the notified country, the law is that it will be taxable only at time of withdrawal. And in India, so far, it will be taxed every year. So this was the mismatch, as Rishabh rightly said, that just to reconcile this mismatch. And just to understand, this is only available when your income is arising in the notified country. And you need to satisfy the condition of being a specified person. It means you opened an account when you are resident of that country, non-resident of India and resident of that country. So assuming you satisfied the condition, now you have a situation that you can open more than one account. So I think one question was there whether more than one account is possible or not. So yes, it is possible to have more than one account. Now come to rule 2, sub-rule 2, where the option has been exercised. So this is very interesting, and this is the main part of this rule, where the option has been exercised by a specified person. It means the person has exercised this option. The total income of the specified person for the previous year in which it is taxable is not included the income. So while doing the computation, what we don't need to include, that is if it is already taxed. So assuming subsequently after 5 you paid the tax for 5 years in India, now you want to avail this benefit. So you opted for this, and when the income will be, you get the money back from the notified country, then it will not be taxed because you are already taxed for the 5 years. So that portion it will not be covered. So the term income which has already been taxed in any of the earlier previous year, that will not be included. And secondly, any income which is not taxable in India because of his residential status or the application of DTAA. So here the application of DTAA is also very interesting. If you read Article 15 of OECD Model Convention, that is for salary, and I think 17 or 18, that is 18 for pension. So in domestic tax, we read pension as a salary, but for DTAA, the pension and the salary are two different terms and hold a place in different article. How it is to be interpreted, that we will read subsequently, but this is very important, that if you are getting some benefit because of application of DTAA, then it will not be form part of total income, so it will not be taxed in that year. So this is very important. Now, and the foreign tax paid on such income, if any, shall be ignored for the purpose of computing the total income. So for those period you have already been taxed, and now you are getting, your income is getting taxed outside India, and you want to claim the foreign tax credit. So you need to proportionately remove those part which is not taxable, because you cannot get the FTC of all the amount and not declaring or not when the income has already been taxed in the earlier years, and now this year only the remaining part of the income is taxable. So you cannot get all the credit. So that government is very particular to say that you cannot get the all credit. You need to forego those credits. Now come to third part. This is also very important. The option under sub-rule 1, the option under sub-rule 1 shall be exercised by the specified person in respect of all the specified accounts maintained by the specified person. So all the specified, this is applicable to all the specified accounts maintained by the specified person. Is it possible to take the option of one account and not the second account? Assuming I have two accounts, is it possible to avail this benefit of relief in one account and not in another account? So if you read the section, it says nothing. Even if you read the section, it says a specified account. So whether a can be read as a plural or only one, that again a matter of debate, and of course it will go to court. However, this and one has already been settled by the earlier judgments. But again, the situation is, I have two accounts. Can I take the benefit of rule 21 triple in one account and not in the another account? So it says no. There is no pick and choose. Once you opt for all the accounts, or if you not, then you are out for all the accounts, and you cannot say the partial choosing is not allowed. So this is important. A person may have multiple. So this is the example which is given here. Pursuant to sub-rule through the option to tax in the year of receipt is applicable to all or none. So you don't have in between, either you are yes or no. There is no gray area. Now come to sub-rule 4. In a case where the specified person becomes a non-resident during a relevant year. So this situation is very interesting. So assuming the person becomes non-resident subsequently. So the test is, let me give an example. So in the year 22, you become resident and you want to avail this benefit. Subsequently, once you started availing this benefit, it will continue. So assuming in the year 22, 23, 24 or 25 somewhere, you become non-resident. Because you shifted from India, outside India for the purpose of your employment or any business or any venture. So in that situation, once you filed this, it will continue. But once you become non-resident, it will be considered that you have never opted for this facility. So this is very interesting. एक बार आपने इसको ऑप्ट किया, assuming 22 में आपके एसएससी ने आपको बोला कि मेरे लिए ऑप्ट करो इसको, आपने उसको ऑप्ट किया. Subsequently, the SSC becomes non-resident. So एक बार वो non-resident हो गया, तो अभी 3 साल के लिए वो interim period में वो resident भी था और आप उसका टैक्स यहाँ पे नहीं कर रहे थे because you opted for this. Subsequently, वो non-resident बन गया, तो ऐसा माना जाएगा कि ये इसने कभी भरा ही नहीं, ये ऑप्शन कभी उसने एक्सरसाइज ही नहीं किया. So इसलिए इसको समझना बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है कि कितने सारे इसमें फैसेट्स इंक्लूड हैं. In a case where a specified person becomes a non-resident during the relevant year, then the option exercised under sub-rule 1 shall be deemed to have never been exercised with effect from the relevant year. So, वो माना जाएगा उसने कभी exercise ही नहीं किया. And the income which has accrued in a specified account or accounts during that period means वो interim period की बात कर रहा है, beginning with the previous year in respect of which the option under subsection 1 was exercised and ending with the previous year immediately preceding the relevant previous year shall be taxable during the previous year immediately preceding the relevant previous year, and tax shall be paid on or before the due date of furnishing the return. So वो taxable होगा जैसे पहले हो रहा था, because this is available only to the resident. This section is available only to the resident. And अगर आप specified person का definition को mind में रखेंगे, that person should be resident. And ये कब खोला गया अकाउंट? जब वो इंडिया में नॉन रेसिडेंट था और उस कंट्री में रेसिडेंट था. सो अगर हम ये मान के चलते हैं कि उसने ये कंडीशन को सेटिस्फाई कर भी दिया, तो ये मुझे वो टेस्ट को मुझे कब, वो जो कंडीशन है वो कब टेस्ट करना है. सो आज ये लॉ लेकर आप आ रहे हो. आज समझो कि कोई एम्प्लॉय 20 साल पहले इंडिया के बाहर गया. ऋषभ जी का एक क्लाइंट है जो 20 साल पहले यूके में शिफ्ट हो गया और उसने उस साल में अकाउंट खुलवाया था अपना उस समय के लॉ के हिसाब से। अब मुझे कब टेस्ट करना पड़ेगा? आज जब मैं इसका ये बेनिफिट देने जा रहा हूँ, तो मैं क्या 20 साल पीछे में जाकर टेस्ट करूंगा कि जब आपने ये अकाउंट खोला था तब आप इंडिया में नॉन रेसिडेंट थे, उस कंट्री में रेसिडेंट थे, तब आपने अकाउंट खोला था, एज्यूमिंग उसका सिर्फ एक ही अकाउंट है, तो क्या मैं उस साल में जाकर टेस्ट करूंगा आज से 20 साल पीछे जाके? या आज, क्योंकि आज के डेट में मुझे टेस्ट करने का कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है। सेक्शन क्या बोलता है? opened the account, opened the specified account when he was non-resident of India and resident of that country. So उस समय के हिसाब से आपको टेस्ट करना पड़ेगा। और इसको, सेक्शन को अप्लाई करना इतना आसान नहीं है, क्योंकि अगर आप देखेंगे हर एक जगह पे इसमें कुछ ना कुछ कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज इंक्लूड किया, एंड दैट टू इज नॉट क्लियर। अगर थोड़ा और इसको क्लैरिटी के साथ लाया था तो शायद कुछ और इसका सिचुएशन बनता, बट बहुत सारे जगह पे आपको डाउट्स क्रिएट होंगे, और ज्यादा दूर जाने की जरूरत नहीं है। 20-25 डाउट तो हम लोग ही क्रिएट कर देंगे, कि इतने सारे डाउट्स तो हम लोगों ने इसको जब से इसको देखा है इस सेक्शन को, तब से हम लोगों ने इसके ऊपर ऑलरेडी कई बार पॉइंट रेज किया है, बट स्टिल ये अभी भी ऐसे ही रहेगा। कुछ इसमें आता है तो देखते हैं नेक्स्ट ईयर में। सो नंबर 5, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। नंबर 5, द ऑप्शन टू एक्सरसाइज अंडर सब रूल 1। सो कैन वी गो टू नंबर 5? So this filing of form, ये एकदम समझने का चीज है। The option to be exercised under sub rule 1 by the specified person for any previous year relevant to the assessment year beginning on after 1st April 2022 shall be in form of 10EE। अभी एक सिचुएशन लेके आते हैं कि यार 10EE आपको फॉर्म भरना है, कब भरना है? And it shall be furnished electronically under digital signature or under electronic verification code। कब करना है ये? ऑन और बिफोर द स्पेसिफाइड डेट अंडर सेक्शन 139 फॉर फर्निशिंग, अंडर 1 अंडर सेक्शन 139 अंडर ब्रैकेट 1 फॉर फर्निशिंग द रिटर्न ऑफ इनकम। अभी एकदम सिंपल सिचुएशन लेते हैं। समझिए ऋषभ जी का एक क्लाइंट है जो सारे कंडीशंस को सेटिस्फाई कर रहा है, बट अभी उसको पैसा नहीं मिलने वाला है। उसको पैसा मिलेगा 5 साल 10 साल बाद, जब उसका वहां पे टेन्योर पूरा होगा, जो वहां का जो लॉ है उसके हिसाब से। तो इसको कब ये फाइल करना पड़ेगा? क्या आज फाइल करना जरूरी है, या आज अभी 10 साल का टाइम है तो 10 साल के बीच में कभी भी कर सकते हैं? जिस साल में हम फाइल करेंगे उस साल से मेरा ये बेनिफिट काउंट होगा, जो पीछे का टैक्स हो गया सो हो गया, या कब काउंटिंग होगी? अगर एज्यूम कीजिए मैं इस साल में फाइल करने से छूट गया, तो क्या मैं नेक्स्ट ईयर में कर सकता हूं? अगर मैं लेट रिटर्न फाइल कर रहा हूं, मैं आज भी रिटर्न फाइल कर सकता हूँ 22-23 का, अगर मैं आज करता हूं तो भी क्या मैं ये 10EE फाइल कर सकता हूँ? सो अगर आप सेक्शन रूल का वर्डिंग देखिए, कहता है 10EE फॉर्म आपको फाइल करना है, शैल अप्लाई इन, ये कब फाइल करना है? ये कह रहे हैं 139(1) में जो डेट दिया हुआ है, ड्यू डेट फॉर फर्निशिंग द रिटर्न अंडर सेक्शन 139(1। सो 139(1) का केस आपका तो 31 जुलाई को खत्म हो गया। अभी आप वो चीज को आगे नहीं बढ़ा सकते। सो यू कैन नॉट टेक द बेनिफिट फॉर दिस ईयर। ये साल आपकी गाड़ी छूट गई, अभी नेक्स्ट ईयर में जाके आप फिर अप्लाई करेंगे बिफोर द फाइलिंग ऑफ रिटर्न, तो ये साल का तो अक्रूवल बेसिस पे टैक्स हो गया। नेक्स्ट ईयर में अगर आप जाते हैं देन यू कैन टेक द बेनिफिट। सो ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है कि मुझे कब बेनिफिट मिलेगा और कब मुझे ये फॉर्म भरना है। सो ये फॉर्म ऑनलाइन फॉर्म है, आपको डिजिटली साइन करके भरना है, या आप ईसीवी के थ्रू भी कर सकते हैं, एंड दैट टू बिफोर द फाइलिंग ऑफ बिफोर द ड्यू डेट, दैट इज 139(1). सो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। और ये अभी 2-3 सेक्शन में जो हम लोगों ने 115 BAB और जितने भी सेक्शन आए हैं जिनमें आपको लोअर टैक्स का बेनिफिट मिलता है, उनमें भी सेम सेक्शन है कि आपको 139 अंडर ब्रैकेट 1 का जो ड्यू डेट है, ये नहीं बोलता है कि 139(1) का जो रिटर्न फाइल कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज अगर मान लीजिए मैंने ओरिजिनल रिटर्न अभी फाइल ही नहीं किया, मैं आज फाइल कर रहा हूँ, मैं कर सकता हूँ, बट अगर मैं और वो सेक्शन 139 के अंडर में फॉल करता है, बट आई एम आउट ऑफ दिस बेनिफिट, मुझे ये बेनिफिट इस साल के लिए नहीं मिलेगा, सब्सिक्वेंट ईयर के लिए मिलेगा, सब्सिक्वेंट ईयर के लिए मिलेगा। सो ये बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग पार्ट है इसका। और जब भी हम लोग इस सेक्शन को पढ़ते हैं और इस रूल को जब भी हम लोग देखते हैं, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि इसमें शायद ऐसे इसको इस तरह से बनाया गया है कि लोग गलती करें और उनको बेनिफिट छूट जाए। एक तो वैसे ही आपने लिमिट कर दिया कि 5 कंट्री के लिए अवेलेबल है, एंड इसके अलावा अगर आप आज ऋषभ जी का कोई क्लाइंट है जो सिंगापुर, मॉरिशस, मलेशिया इनमें रहता है, तो उनको बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा, तो नोटिफाइड कंट्री में दूंगा। और वो भी कंडीशन क्या है, आपने जब अकाउंट खुलवाया था, अभी एक से ज्यादा अकाउंट खुलवाया, जैसे अभी हमारे एक ऑडियंस ने क्वेश्चन रेज किया था कि मैंने एक अकाउंट बंद कर दिया और सब्सिक्वेंटली दूसरा अकाउंट खुला लिया, तो मेरा क्या होगा। सो फर्स्ट अकाउंट जो खुलवाया और आपने बंद किया, उस पीरियड का इनकम तो आपने उस समय टैक्स किया होगा। सब्सिक्वेंटली जब आपने उसके बाद कोई दूसरा अकाउंट खुलाया और जब खुलवाया वहां से इस साल तक आपने ऑलरेडी टैक्स किया होगा। इसके बाद ये 21-22 फाइनेंशियल ईयर से आपको ये बेनिफिट अवेलेबल हुआ है, तो आपको उस पीरियड के बाद जितना भी टाइम आप उसको आपने अगर ये फॉर्म भर दिया, देन यू आर एलिजिबल टू टेक द बेनिफिट एंड टू दैट ईयर व्हेन यू डिड नॉट बिकम द नॉन रेसिडेंट। अगर आप नॉन रेसिडेंट बन जाते हैं तो फिर से आपका ये बेनिफिट खत्म हो जाएगा। अगर आप रेसिडेंट कंटिन्यू करते हैं और आपको पूरा पैसा मिलता है, तब आप कह सकते हैं कि मुझे 89 कैपिटल लेकर रिलैक्सेशन या रिलीफ मिला है। ऋषभ जी, यू वांट टू ऐड समथिंग?
Yes, sir. I mean, on this non-resident wala point on sub rule 4. So technically, this sub rule is just an anti-abuse rule कि कोई आके इंडिया में रेसिडेंट बन के सिर्फ इसका बेनिफिट लेने के लिए ना बने रेसिडेंट इंडिया में। बट इन माय ओपिनियन बेनिफिट लेना अपने आप में, दैट यू हैव करेक्टली मेंशन दैट इट्स अ टास्क, इट्स अ वेरी डिफिकल्ट टास्क। तो ऐसे 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 सेक्शन के लिए आई मीन एक ये एंटी अब्यूज रूल बनाया, तो ठीक है। I mean, the ministry is thinking way ahead of what we are looking at this right now. And also, I mean, I am perplexed with the heading that it specifies over here. It says relief from taxation in income of retirement benefit account. And then if we see the rule, because the section is very small, if we see the rule, it is just clearing the mismatch.
Yes.
So is it going beyond its power in the rules?
I can say yes, because जो सेक्शन का जो इंटेंट है और जो रूल का जो कंटेंट है, that is mismatching.
So there is one question. It says that can we claim benefit for financial year 22-23 if the form 10EE is filed by 31st July 23?
So coming to that part, we will answer all the queries. अभी तो इसमें और इश्यूज जो हम लोग डिस्कस करना चाह रहे हैं। सो जो अभी हम लोग डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि being a non-resident in that year. So अगर आप देखो इंडिया में जो कैलकुलेशन होता है वो होता है रेसिडेंट, नॉन रेसिडेंट एंड नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेसिडेंट। बहुत सारे कंट्रीज में वो कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है, वहां तो रेसिडेंट या नॉन रेसिडेंट। अभी आपने बोला वो इंडिया में नॉन रेसिडेंट होना चाहिए और वहां पे रेसिडेंट होना चाहिए। अभी सिचुएशन चेंज करते हैं, आप रेसिडेंट हो बट आप नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेसिडेंट, तो भी क्या ये बेनिफिट मिल सकता है? बिकॉज मैं आज के डेट में तो मैं रेसिडेंट हो गया, बट मेरे पास दो सिचुएशन बनता है, रेसिडेंट एंड नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेसिडेंट। और वो मुझे सबको पता है सेक्शन 6 सब सेक्शन 6 में कैसे कैलकुलेट होता है, 9 out of 10 years and 7 years per 730 days. So assuming you are satisfying those conditions, you are not ordinary resident in the year you are filing, you are opting for this, तब भी क्या ये बेनिफिट मिलेगा? बिकॉज यहाँ पे कहता है रेसिडेंट होना चाहिए। क्या रेसिडेंट इंक्लूड्स रेसिडेंट एंड नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेसिडेंट ऑल्सो? अगर कोई नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेसिडेंट है देन ही कैन टेक अनदर प्ली कि मैं आज तो ही मेरा इनकम टैक्स आप नहीं कर सकते, बिकॉज द इनकम अक्रू अराइजन आउटसाइड इंडिया। एंड सेक्शन 6 ऑफ सेक्शन 6 बोलता है कि आप सिर्फ यहाँ पे उसी को टैक्स कर सकते हैं व्हेन द बिजनेस सेटअप इन इंडिया, इनकम अराइजन फ्रॉम द बिजनेस सेटअप इन इंडिया और प्रोफेशन कैरिड ऑन इन इंडिया। सो बिजनेस सेटअप इन इंडिया और प्रोफेशन कैरिड इन इंडिया, तो उसी सिचुएशन आप उसको कवर कर सकते हैं, अदरवाइज नहीं। तो क्या मैं उसको उस ग्राउंड को लेके बाहर हो सकता हूँ या तब भी ये अप्लीकेबल हो? बिकॉज रेसिडेंट का हमारे पे दो लिंक है, रेसिडेंट बट नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेसिडेंट एंड ऑर्डिनरी रेसिडेंट। किसके लिए कहना चाह रहे हैं? क्योंकि यहाँ पे कोई, जैसे आपने सेक्शन 6(1)(a) आपने रेफरेंस में पढ़ा था, पर्सन नॉट सो स्टेटलेस पर्सन नॉट लायबल टू टैक्स इन एनीवेयर आउटसाइड इंडिया बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ देयर रेसिडेंसी। सो वहां पे उन्होंने बोल दिया कि सेक्शन 6 सबसेक्शन 6 में ही ये फॉल करेगा हर बार। इसका मतलब वो पर्सन हमेशा NROR ही रहेगा, सॉरी RNOR ही रहेगा। बट यहाँ पे ऐसा कुछ नहीं बोला कि क्या ये RNOR को भी कवर कर रहा है या नहीं कर रहा है। सो अनदर सिचुएशन और सिमिलर सिचुएशन, अगर मैं बोलता हूँ अगर मैं नॉन रेसिडेंट होता तो प्योरली नॉन रेसिडेंट और मैं सब्सिक्वेंटली पहले नॉन रेसिडेंट था, तब मैंने खुलवाया, बाद में मैं रेसिडेंट हो गया बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ सेक्शन 6(1) एक्सप्लेनेशन, सेक्शन 6(1)(c) रीड विद एक्सप्लेनेशन 1(b) कि आप यहाँ पे 182 से ज्यादा रह गए या आपका 15 लाख से ऊपर का इनकम हो गया तो आप यहाँ पे रेसिडेंट बन गए, लेकिन अभी भी मेरा जॉब वहां पे चल रहा है, या कोई पर्सन कोविड के कारण यहाँ आया और यहाँ रेसिडेंट बन गया और वो यहाँ पे टैक्स भी पे कर रहा है और वहां पे भी उसको सोशल सिक्योरिटी में उसको पैसा मिल रहा है, अभी वो वापस चला जाएगा। जो हमने डिस्कस किया था विजिट्स टू इंडिया, विजिट्स टू इंडिया का मतलब क्या, अगर मुझे आके 15 दिन में, 1 महीना में, 6 महीना में वापस जाना है, या मैं यहाँ रह रहा हूँ साल भर उसके बाद वापस जाता हूँ, दैट इज ऑल्सो कवर्ड अंडर विजिट्स टू इंडिया। सो अगर वो सिचुएशन होता तब भी क्या मुझे ये बेनिफिट मिलेगा, अगर होगा तो मैं उसको कैसे कैलकुलेट करूंगा। सो देर आर सो मेनी इश्यूज, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया ना, 15, 20, 25 तो हम ही लोग उठा देंगे कि ये इतने सारे इश्यूज हैं इसके अंदर। अभी और इंटेलेक्चुअल्स लोग बैठे हैं जो इसमें और सारा रिसर्च करेंगे, बट मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि सो मेनी इश्यूज, जो रिलीफ की हम बात कर रहे हैं, दिस इज नॉट फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ रिलीफ पर से, कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी।
सर एक क्वेश्चन, मेरा पर्सनल क्वेश्चन है इसमें कि कोई कोई इंडियन सिटीजन था, ही गॉट एम्प्लॉयमेंट इन लेट्स से यूएस, वहां पे उसने 5-10 साल काम किया है किसी टेक्नोलॉजी कंपनी में, नाउ ही इज डूइंग वर्क फ्रॉम होम फ्रॉम इंडिया, अकाउंट खुला है, सैलरी इज बीइंग क्रेडिटेड इन यूएस अकाउंट, is also being deposited for social security, and when he gets retired, so वो फॉर्म 10EE अभी भरेंगे कि अक्रूवल पे साथ साथ ना टैक्स हुए क्योंकि मैं रेसिडेंट हूं, अभी वर्क फ्रॉम होम कर रहा हूं, या फिर जब मैं रिटायर हो जाऊंगा तब भरा जाएगा कि क्योंकि बट वो एट द बाय दैट टाइम वो अक्रूवल पे टैक्स हो चुकी होगी, इनकम बीइंग अ रेसिडेंट वर्ल्ड वाइड इनकम टैक्स हो रही होगी।
करेक्ट। सो जो आपका जो एग्जाम्पल है ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है। जैसे मैंने एग्जाम्पल में आपने बताया कि अगर आप फुल टाइम के लिए रेसिडेंट बन जाते हो, बिकॉज आपको कोविड में कंपनी ने बोला आप वर्क फ्रॉम होम करो, कोई इश्यू नहीं, आप इंडिया आ गए और आप 2 साल से यहीं बैठे हो, सारा काम कर रहे हो। अब आपने रियलाइज किया कि मैं तो रेसिडेंट हूँ और एज पर दिस सेक्शन एज वन रेसिडेंट कैन फाइल, और वो अकाउंट आपने कब खुलाया था, एज्यूमिंग जब आप इंडिया में नॉन रेसिडेंट तो वहां रेसिडेंट, एज्यूमिंग योर कंसेंट, क्या आज आप भर देते हैं 10EE फॉर्म, बट सब्सिक्वेंटली जब आपका ये कोविड का इश्यू खत्म हो गया, देन यू विल अगेन गो बैक एंड यू विल बिकम नॉन रेसिडेंट, then it will be considered that you have never filed this form, or you have never opted, तो पर्पस ही डिफीट हो गया फाइल करने का। सो आपको कब फाइल करना है, जब आपको वो, आप जब यहाँ आ गए तब आपको फाइल करना है, कि आपको वापस नहीं जाना है, क्योंकि अगर एक बार भी आप वापस चले गए और आप नॉन रेसिडेंट बन गए तो ये आप पूरा बीच का पीरियड खत्म हो जाएगा, और वो बीच का पीरियड वो सब्सिक्वेंट ईयर में जाकर टैक्स हो जाएगा।
Correct. And also there is not clarity upon, okay, now if the person becomes non-resident, but अब finally वो retire होके आ गया है, becomes resident, can he file the form again?
सो ये भी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है, क्या ये मैं लाइफ टाइम में एक ही बार भर सकता हूँ या एक से ज्यादा बार भर सकता हूँ। सो पहला सिचुएशन जो आपने लिया था कि आपने एक बार भरा, एज्यूमिंग कि आपका क्लाइंट है वो वापस आ गया, कहता है मुझे नहीं जाना, 10EE फॉर्म भर दो मेरा, आपने इस साल भर दिया। जैसे भी हमारे किसी फ्रेंड ने पूछा था कि 22-23 फाइनेंशियल ईयर का भर सकते हैं 30 जुलाई के पहले, यस आप भर सकते हैं। सो एज्यूम आपने भर दिया, अभी 5 साल बाद क्लाइंट का मूड बदल गया, मैं जा रहा हूँ वापस, मुझे इंडिया में मन नहीं लग रहा है, तो वो वापस चला गया। तो बीच में जो आपने भरा ना और आपने बेनिफिट लिया वो आपका खत्म हो गया, वो माना जाएगा आपने फॉर्म भरा ही नहीं है। आप दोबारा जब आएंगे देन इट विल यू आर कंसीडर्ड एज यू हैव नेवर फाइल्ड, सो आप दोबारा भर सकते हैं। सो आपको भरने का मौका एक ही बार मिलेगा, क्योंकि आपने जो पहले भरा है वो माना जाएगा कि बिल्कुल नहीं भरा गया है, इसीलिए आपको वो मौका आपके पास अभी भी अवेलेबल रहेगा। सो दिस इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट, बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट आपने रेज किया ये। सो मेरे ख्याल से हम लोगों ने जो सेक्शन जो 89 के जो इश्यूज हैं, इसमें बहुत सारा इश्यूज, आप चाहो तो ऐड प्लस माइनस करके आप देख सकते हो और सिचुएशंस को आप अपने हिसाब से चेंज कर सकते हो। एंड अगेन अगर मैं इसको देखूं कि अब इश्यू ये आता है कि मेरा टैक्सेबिलिटी कैसे हो। सो जो अभी हमने डिस्कस किया, कब एक्रूराइज हुआ, जब आप बाहर थे और उसी के कारण वो एक्रू हो रहा है, सो इट इज लिंक्ड विद द सैलरी, एंड सैलरी विल बी टैक्स अंडर आर्टिकल 15 ऑफ द OECD मॉडल कन्वेंशन। सो कहता है अगर वो रेसिडेंट को मिलेगा, जनरली रेसिडेंट कंट्री में टैक्स होगा अनलेस द जॉब एक्सरसाइज समवेयर एल्स। सो नेचुरली अगर आप बाहर आपने जॉब एक्सरसाइज किया तो वहां टैक्स होगा जाके। तो मैंने तो बाहर जॉब एक्सरसाइज किया था, तो आप मेरे यहाँ पे वैसे ही टैक्स नहीं कर सकते, क्या मैं ये ग्राउंड भी ले सकता हूँ? बट TTAA में पेंशन की अलग सेक्शन है, पेंशन में कहता है कि जहां का वो रेसिडेंट है वही टैक्स होगा। सो अगर ऐसा सिचुएशन है तो जो कंट्री मुझे पेंशन दे रही है फिर वो मेरा टैक्स क्यों काट रही है? अगर मेरा इंडिया US ट्रीटी है वो कहता है कि जहां जिस कंट्री में आप रेसिडेंट हो उस कंट्री में आपको टैक्स होगा, तो फिर मैं ट्रीटी का बेनिफिट मुझे उसी में मिलना चाहिए, तो फिर वहां वो टैक्स ही क्यों होगा? लेकिन अगर आप पढ़ोगे तो वो वहां पे भी टैक्स होता है, बिकॉज वो कहता है द कंट्री, जो कंट्री पे कर रही है उसका तो राइट है ही टैक्स करने का, जिसको मिल रहा है वो रेसिडेंट कंट्री में टैक्स कर देगी। सो रेसिडेंट कंट्री में तो एनीवे मेरा ग्लोबल इनकम टैक्सेबल है, तो क्या मैं वो 9 का बेनिफिट वहां पे नहीं ले सकता कि नहीं, आई एक्सरसाइज माई एम्प्लॉयमेंट आउटसाइड इंडिया सो इट कैन नॉट बी टैक्स इन इंडिया, सो 9(2) का मुझे 9(1)(2) का मुझे बेनिफिट मिलना चाहिए। सो मेनी थिंग्स, मतलब इसके अलावा अगर आप सेक्शन 9(2) को अलग से पढ़ेंगे तो कहता है कि अगर रिटायरमेंट बेनिफिट के लिए है तो उसी कंट्री में टैक्स होगा, लेकिन दैट इज फॉर जो जो जज लोग पहले बाहर चले गए उनके लिए एप्लीकेबल होता है, तो अभी मैं उस पर नहीं जाऊंगा बिकॉज वो एक अलग सिचुएशन को, वो अलग टेंजेंट है। जस्ट आइडिया मेरा ये था कि एक सेक्शन 89 में जो जो इश्यूज हैं वो ट्रिगर करना, और रूल 21(AAA) जो अभी तक रूल बुक में नहीं आया है, यू कैन गेट इट ओनली ओवर द इंटरनेट। आपको रूल बुक जो इस बार का जो फाइनेंस एक्ट आया था, जो जो हमारे पास एक्ट आया था उसमें नहीं है, लेकिन जो इश्यूज इसमें इन्वॉल्व हैं दीज आर वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग, और इनमें आप कितने भी परमुटेशन कॉम्बिनेशन ऐड कर सकते हो एंड यू कैन मेक इट मोर कॉम्प्लेक्स, इवन मोर कॉम्प्लेक्स है कोई मतलब आप आपके ऊपर डिपेंड करते, इट्स अपॉन योर विजडम।
So our purpose here was to stir up the discussion and debate on this section, which is, I mean, I have never heard someone talking about this section before. You mentioned it to me when we met. So, I mean, every time I read, there are more questions. Every time I read the rule, I get perplexed about situations and how, I mean, it can be used, but still, what are the barriers even to get the relief? So, as you rightly mentioned, like relief देने के लिए, there should be a simpler section which says, okay, ये ऐसा हुआ है तो आपको relief मिलना चाहिए. But the conditions in this section and this sub rule are so intertwined and also have interplay with the residents over here, and then we have this special concept of resident and non-ordinary resident. You summarized it very well. If you allow, there is a question.
Yes, we should take all the queries, and if the audience want to speak, if possible, then we should take the query online also.
Yes, it's possible, but I mean, whatever here is in Q&A, I'll take that, and then if someone wants to raise their hand, the control room can unmute them as well. So first question, I mean, it's not exactly related to this section, but it says that Mr. A is an Indian, has served for 3 years in Germany, but then is relocated to Ireland. So how can he claim or transfer the retirement benefits, especially pension, deducted from salary in Germany to Ireland? So I think it's more about the domestic law of Germany and Ireland and the EU law rather than Section 89A or the Indian Income Tax Act over here. Sachin sir, do you want to add something?
Correct. You're right, sir. Because what I can understand from here that the person, the pension is related to while he was in Germany and then he shifted to Ireland. So if he become a resident of India, then the situation would be different. Because in case of resident, we generally say that all the income which is accrued arises to him even outside India will be taxed in India. So what if he become a resident, but here he was non-resident and he become further the resident of another country and not for India. So I think out of the question of this 912 and again 89A relief is also not available in this case.
And there's like the same question which comes up like for 2023 financial year, is Form 10EE filed before 31st July 2023 valid?
Yes, if you file before 31st July, then it is valid.
Another is there an impact of MLI on this situation?
So as of now, I have not tasted to that level, but of course there may be some impact of MLI also. But I have to be very frank with you, I haven't tasted at that level. So I'll definitely come back on this issue when I'll get the opportunity, because this is very interesting issue that MLI is already there. So, and whether this transaction or this benefit by any chance hit the MLI, then of course we will we should understand those part also. So thank you, Amit ji, for raising this important question. I'll definitely come back to you once I'll do my research for that part.
I'll request the audience if there are any other questions you want to put up or you want to ask. Nothing over here in the Q&A. If someone wants to get unmuted, please, you can raise your hand.
So Kuldeep Sharma sir has raised his hand.
Yes, I'll just... not see. Oh. Kuldeep sir, you are unmuted, sir.
Thank you, Rishabh-ji. And
Good evening,
it's
sir. Good evening. Good evening, sir.
It's so nice to listen your expert views, and I am amazed as to how many examples Sachin-ji comes so, easily these examples come to him. I think this is demonstrated by the fact that he has in-depth knowledge of the subject. Only then one can come up with so many examples. So this has been a very excellent discussion, and in fact, in the process, I have also learned quite a few things on this new insertion. Just to add my perspective from revenue side, what I would say is that for revenue to bring a new legislation is always a challenge. First of all, let's give credit to revenue that they gave some relief, which was not there at all in the earlier years. But then once a law is to be designed, a lot of things go into it. And one of the primary things is the anti-abuse rule, as Rishabh-ji pointed out, is sub-rule 4. So for revenue to think of so many permutation and combination as Sachin-ji has tried to bring up it's very, very difficult. So what application at ground level should be with the nerve and the center of the background through which this legislation has come. And the nerve and center is that when a person becomes resident in India, he should not be subjected to double taxation. So that is the basic nerve and center of this section. So if we read the domestic law and the DTAs, we according to me, if I were to read, I would just take into account the domestic law and the DTA provisions wherever DTA provision applies to get to the crux of the matter. And yes, there is a challenge. Years that have gone by, tax credit cannot be claimed, so it cannot be claimed. It's a challenge. And even revenue authorities cannot undo this kind of a thing. And this section is to be applied in a prospective manner, and it cannot be applied retrospectively. This, I think, we all of us understand. So Sachin ji has explained a lot of things in regard to DTA, Article 15 on salary and pension. So in my mind, this pension word should be applied to those situations where a person gets monthly pension or remuneration on an ongoing basis, where there is a one-off payment on culmination of the account. Probably the word pension should not be read. This is my view. Just to add on the beautiful discussions which we have had up till now. Now to add to problems of Rishabh-ji and Sachin-ji, I have also got one question to which I don't have a very good or ready answer, but there are again conflicting views on what should be done by the revenue authorities. You see, what happens if a resident goes abroad and works, let's say in USA or UK, and earns salary income from there, right? And over a period of time, what he does is that he does not open an account in USA or UK. He intimates to his employer his Indian account. So if the salary is getting taxed or credited into the Indian account directly, right? Even in those years when he has become non-resident, whether that salary can be taxed in India.
First of all, thank you, sir, for the benefit of audience. You all Kuldeep sir is ex-IRS and author of so many books on international taxation and a very learned person. And the question raised by you, to my little knowledge, sir, I can only answer to that extent that if the person become when the salary is taxable, where the employment is exercised. So if the person has exercised employment in UK, even though he is receiving his salary in India, it will not be taxable in India because the income accrues rises to him outside India. Only the receiving of money is not subject to tax. The receiving of income is subject to tax. So he received income outside India, so it will be taxed outside India and not in India. This is from my side, sir. For my little knowledge, what I can explain you, sir.
I second Sachin sir's view, and I also acknowledge the presence of Kuldeep sir over here. As Sachin sir rightly mentioned, he is ex-IRS. That's why he is giving us the perspective of the revenue authorities in the introduction of this new legislation. And I also have the same view as Sachin sir. Kuldeep sir, what is your view? I mean, you asked the question, but you would also like to know your view on the same.
Yeah, I also concur with you. I mean, services were rendered abroad. A person cannot be taxed for services which he rendered abroad, but there are some tax authorities who are taxing that receipt of money into the bank account directly in India.
Correct,
So
sir.
I had a discussion on this with some of my former colleagues as well. I mean, there are differing views. I will only say that, but I absolutely concur with you, with your view. It cannot be taxed merely because of the remittance being received into the bank account in India, because services were primarily rendered abroad, not in India.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sachin ji, and
Thank
thank you, Rishabh ji. It has been a brilliant listening to your expert views and your examples. There is so much to learn from both of you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you very much, sir. It's our pleasure that you are here to listen to our discussion, and it was our honor that you were there in the participants list for today.
Really privileged, sir.
No, thank you. I think I did the right thing by taking this opportunity, and I am glad that I could attend this session and learn quite a few things from Sachin ji and Rishabh ji. And some of the questions raised by the participants were equally very apt.
Yes.
So I think in the process, Sachin ji and Rishabh ji have done their job well to convey the nuances of this new section to the participants as well, just like me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for being so humble. Participants, if you have any other questions, you can definitely put it in the Q&A box. We can wait for another minute if you have any questions. In the meanwhile, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our panelists, our Karta Dharta Ashwini sir, and one of our old members, Kartik Jindal ji, who has also been our speaker in quite a few webinars and seminars so far. Ashwini sir, as the participants are not having any more questions, I would request you to please give a vote of thanks for Sachin sir and Rishabh.
Thank you, Neha. First of all, I am really thankful to Sachin Sinha ji and Rishabh Agarwal ji. Although I listen very less, क्योंकि इनकम टैक्स तो वैसे तो हर सीए का एरिया ऑफ इंटरेस्ट है, लेकिन इंटरनेशनल टैक्सेशन फिर भी सबका नहीं होता. लेकिन आज फिर भी आपने जिस वे से डिस्क्राइब किया, मैं सुन रहा था, मेरे को भी कुछ एक चीजें समझ आ गई. ऑल्दो अभी प्रैक्टिसिंग एरिया में क्लाइंट नहीं है, तो इस वजह से इंटरेस्ट अराइज नहीं होता. तो बट इन फ्यूचर आई होप कि जैसे गवर्नमेंट पहले क्या होता था कि हम लोग सोचते थे, देखते थे कि हमारे द्वाबा में मैक्सिमम एनआरआईज हैं, लेकिन कोई भी एनआरआई नहीं है इनकम टैक्स में, वो सारे रेजिडेंट की रिटर्न नहीं भरते हैं. लेकिन गवर्नमेंट जैसे विजिलेंट हो रही है, जैसे टेक्निकलिटीज आ रही हैं, आने वाले टाइम में आप लोगों की बहुत जरूरत पड़ने वाली है. और वॉइस ऑफ सीए ने इंटरनेशनल टैक्सेशन के साथ इसका आगाज भी कर दिया है. तो मैं ये कहूंगा कि आज का सेशन मतलब जो प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं उनके लिए तो ऐसे ही था जैसे गिरीश ऊर्जा जी समझाते हैं ना, क्लोज बाई क्लोज, और खाने में पड़ जाती है। जो हमारे जैसे हैं उनके लिए आने वाले टाइम में और हम इसको डाउन टू मतलब कहते हैं जैसे ना ग्राउंड लेवल पे जो और क्लोजेज हैं उसके रिगार्डिंग भी आने वाले टाइम में सेशंस लेके आएंगे, चाहे वो एनआरआई टैक्सेशन के रिलेटेड हो, चाहे वो आपके कोई लैंड बेची है इसको टू बी रिलेटेड विद फैमा, अगर आपके टीडीएस कटे हैं लिबरलाइज स्कीम उसके साथ कुछ लिंकअप करके आने वाले सेशन आने वाले टाइम में और इसके सेशंस लेके आएंगे जो एनआरआई टैक्सेशन के लिए या इंटरनेशनल टैक्सेशन में बेनिफिशियल होंगे सबके लिए। और जो लोग बाहर रह भी रहे हैं, कोई प्रॉपर्टी जहाँ पे बेचते हैं और हैं, उनको स्पेसिफिक विद टॉपिक और सेशन लेके आएंगे, रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे सचिन जी को और ऋषभ जी को। तो मैं ग्रेटली थैंकफुल ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ पार्टिसिपेंट्स कि आप फिर भी हमारा नया टॉपिक है, फर्स्ट टाइम हमने किया है, तो आप लोग इतने नंबर में भी जुड़े। और वैसे भी आजकल इतनी सर्दी है, वैसे ही सबका मन करता है कि बस घर चले जाएं। तो और कार्तिक जिंदल जी ये तो हमारे इंडियस फैकल्टी है भी हैं, इन्होंने इंडियस के साथ साथ अब इंटरनेशनल टैक्सेशन में भी सुना। और देन हमारे कुलदीप शर्मा जी, उन्होंने इस सेशन को इंटरेक्टिव रखा, क्वेश्चन भी पूछे। तो बाकी जितने भी पार्टिसिपेंट हमारे साथ जुड़े उन सबका भी मैं तहे दिल से धन्यवादी हूं कि आप लोगों ने अपना टाइम निकाला। आने वाले सेशन आने वाले टाइम में और हम आपके लिए सेशंस लेके आएंगे और इसके रिगार्डिंग हम वॉइस ऑफ सीए एसोसिएशन की तरफ से एक फर्स्ट ईयर का जो आगाज है वो गुरुजी के ब्लेसिंग्स के साथ कर रहे हैं। और उसमें अभी न्यू एडिशन भी कर दी है इनकम टैक्स एज वेल एज जीएसटी गुरु दोनों का, कि जो बजट में क्या एक्सपेक्टेशंस आ रही हैं उसके बारे में भी उनको खंगालेंगे कि हमें पहले ही बता दो अगर पता है तो क्या एक्सपेक्टेशंस हैं। और अगर आपके कोई क्वेश्चन आंसर होंगे उसके बारे में भी सुनेंगे। और अगर कोई जीएसटी के रिलेटेड जो अभी अमेंडमेंट्स नोटिफाई हुई हैं बत्रा जी उसके बारे में भी बताएंगे। और ये 2 तारीख को हम कर रहे हैं क्योंकि 1 तारीख को संडे है, पढ़ने लिखने का मन नहीं होगा लोगों का। लेकिन हम इसके रिगार्डिंग मैं आप लोगों को रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि जो 38 पार्टिसिपेंट हैं, अगर आपको किसी भी माध्यम से आपको मैसेज आता है कि आप उसमें रजिस्टर्ड करें। और अभी मैं अभी मैं जस्ट बात करके चुका हूं कि हम चाहते हैं कि जो आपका नया साल है वो हम मैसेजेस में तो पढ़ते रहते हैं हेल्दी वेल्दी, लेकिन एक्चुअल में हेल्दी कैसे हो उसके रिगार्डिंग मैंने ना अभी बात की है पानीपत में दीपिका अरोड़ा जी से। तो हम एक न्यू ईयर फिटनेस प्रोग्राम लेके आ रहे हैं 30 मिनट का, वॉइस ऑफ सीए एसोसिएशन की तरफ से आपके लिए एक वो फॉर यू एंड योर फैमिली, हाउ टू बी फिट ऑन द न्यू ईयर एंड हेल्दी न्यू ईयर 2023 हम उसको कैसे रखें, इसके रिगार्डिंग मैं संडे को एक प्रोग्राम लेके आ रहा हूँ 11 o'clock ओनली फॉर 30 मिनट। उसके रिगार्डिंग भी अभी नोटिफिकेशन आ जाएगी आपको, तो आई विल रिक्वेस्ट यू कि आप उसमें भी हम सबको ज्वाइन करें। विद दिस वर्ड थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर बीइंग कनेक्टेड विद अस। थैंक यू।
Absolutely. Karthik ji, would you like to add something to Ashwini's thank you note?
Thank you, Mr. Neha, for giving me this opportunity. आपको पता ही है कि मेरी फील्ड इंडियस है, बट फिर भी मैंने सुना क्योंकि मेरा एक ऑनलाइन सेशन चल रहा था, मैं आया हूँ। एंड सीए ऋषभ अग्रवाल सचिन सर का क्या है कहना सर, मैंने सर का नाम बहुत सुना था। जैसी मेरी बात हुई ऋषभ से, मैं कहा को स्पीकर कौन है, तो ऋषभ बोले कि आप हैं सचिन सर, तो इमीडिएटली मन से बात निकली भी बहुत अच्छे स्पीकर है। एंड सर आज सुना, सर थैंक यू फॉर दिस। एंड सीए ऋषभ अग्रवाल तो वैसे ही एक्सपर्ट है, एंड सो थैंक यू अलॉट। थैंक्स।
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll sign off for today. Thank you, participants, for joining us. Thank you, all the panelists. Bye-bye.
Come go back. Yeah.